As a driver's ed, there's one lesson that I didn't remember. The topic was dangerous driving. So myself and all my classmates, we were expecting a basic run-of-the-mill, don't drink and drive, don't text and drive kind of lecture. But the story that my teacher gave us had such an impact on me that to this day I can still put myself right back in that classroom. It was a warm March day, unusually warm, so we had the windows open. And because of the weather, we were all in good mood, so we were having a good time. But then our teacher walks in, Mr. Wiggs, and immediately we could tell something's wrong. So he comes in and he sits down, and he pauses a minute, he looks at us and he goes, "Do any of you know why I teach driver's ed?" And having only known this guy for like a week and a half, we all said we don't. so then he says, "Well, let me tell you what. 10 years ago, my son was sitting right where you're sitting. He had just turned 16 and was about to get his license. Well, a few weeks go by, he passes the driver's test. As a matter of fact, he aced it, and he was driving around town. A few weeks after that, Mr. Wiggs says his son wanted to go to the high school football game. Mr. Wiggs' son asked him to take the car, and Mr. Wiggs knew that because it was a night game, he was a little hesitant to give him the car keys. But he knew his son was responsible, so he decided to let him go. Anyway, the game went great, and after the game, Mr. Wiggs' son was on his way home. And he hadn't been drinking, wasn't distracted, wasn't texting or anything like that. And he pulls up to a four-way stop. He comes to a complete stop. And at this point, we notice Mr. Wiggs is starting to choke up. He's having a really hard time finishing his story. And so we didn't know what to expect, but we didn't think he was going to be good. And Mr. Wiggs tells us, he says, "My son stops at that four-way stop and began to accelerate through. When out of nowhere, a pickup truck completely ignored the stop sign, blew through the intersection, and slammed into my son." At this point, Mr. Wiggs pauses for a second. He looks up at us with tears in his eyes. He said, "That driver killed my son because he was changing a radio station." Mr. Wiggs then goes on to tell us that the reason he teaches driver's ed is so he can stress just how important it is to pay attention when you're behind the wheel of the car. Because he said that if he could just prevent one parent from getting that call at 11 p.m. to tell them about their child, it would be worth it. You see, human error while driving is a huge problem. According to the NHTSA's Federal Automated Vehicle Policy, published in September of this year, 94% of traffic accidents are caused by human error. This is a problem that we can solve with autonomous vehicles. So today, I'm here to convince you that this technology should be fast-tracked by automakers and regulators alike to begin saving lives. I assume everyone in this room drives or has loved ones who drive. It could be you getting that call at 11 p.m., and that would be incredibly tragic. So I need you to hear me out. I've been compiling evidence for a couple of weeks now, and all this evidence shows is why we need to push for autonomous vehicles. Over the course of this speech, I'm first going to explain to you the problem and just how serious it is. After that, I'm going to explain to you that the solution is autonomous vehicles. So to demonstrate the problem, let me give you a few numbers. From that earlier NHTSA document, 35,095 people died on U.S. roadways last year alone. 94% of those accidents were caused by human error. That's roughly 33,000 mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, whose deaths were completely preventable. Driving is dangerous. We're going really fast, but that's not the problem. The problem is when you lose focus. Because when you're going fast, you lose focus for even a second, you don't know what's going to happen. And that's all it takes. You know, you always hear about the two big ones, drinking and driving and texting and driving. But there's so many other ones that you don't even think about that take your mind off the road for just a second. That's when the accidents happen. Things like eating, drinking, grooming, reading a map, grabbing something from the bag, adjusting the radio, setting the GPS. Every single one of us that drives does these things. And all it takes is that 1 second of distraction. That's when the accident happens. So according to another NHTSA document titled 2015 Motor Vehicle Crash Overview, which was published in August of this year, 2.44 million people, 2.44 million Americans were injured in traffic accidents this year. Last year, excuse me. And the last statistic I'd like to tell you, the Association for Safe International Road Travel publishes a page with road crash statistics that I accessed on October 14th. On that page, they said that traffic accidents in the U.S. last year caused $231 billion worth of damage. The last statistic is world fatalities from traffic accidents. 1.3 million people every year are killed in traffic accidents. So I did the math, and I took 94% of all those numbers, and this is what it works out to. 33,000 US deaths, 2.2 million US injuries, $217 billion in damages, and 1.2 million deaths worldwide. These numbers are appalling, and if we don't begin solving this problem, it could be one of us that gets that tragic call. But the good news is, I'm not here to scare you, I'm here to propose a solution. What is the solution? Well, it's twofold. First, tax breaks for companies that pursue autonomous vehicle research, and second, giving states increased infrastructure funding from the federal government to allow autonomous vehicles on the road. Autonomous vehicles are safer, even the experts say so. Raj Kumar, who's a professor of electrical engineering at Carnegie Mellon University, says in an article published in 2015, quote, "In the not-so-distant future, self-driving cars will provide society with many benefits pertaining to safety and quality of life." You see, the more that engineers push this technology, the faster it'll emerge. The faster it'll emerge, the faster we solve this problem. Regarding state legislature, California, Florida, Nevada, Michigan, and Washington, D.C. have all enacted bills to regulate autonomous vehicle licensing and operation. That's from an article by Daniel Fagan and Kara Kaufman, published in July of 2015. This is a good number, but it's not close to the number of states we need for widespread use. The best way to increase this number is with government regulation. But these regulations need to encourage these vehicles on the road. Increasing the number of states that allow autonomous vehicles is going to speed up how fast the technology develops, and it's going to solve this problem much quicker. So as I wrap up this call to action, I want you to get mad. This is a problem that we can solve, that we have yet to solve. We need to do this now because the loss of life from human mistakes can be fixed now. The solution exists. We just need to force it to expand rapidly. As I mentioned, the problem is 94% of accidents are caused by human error. I'm telling you, the solution is autonomous vehicles. Automakers and regulators are not moving fast enough. So I implore you to think about the lives we can save. It's up to us, the next generation of Americans, to show the world when we're faced with a tough problem like this, we don't back down, we persevere, and we're going to solve this problem. See, I hope you see now that not fast-tracking this technology is incredibly dangerous. So I can't say it better than Venki Ganson, who's the managing director of Menlo Ventures, which is Silicon Valley's venture capital firm. In a CNBC commentary published in August of 2016, he writes, quote, "The reality is that self-driving cars are substantially safer than human drivers." He goes on to estimate that self-driving cars reduce human fatalities by 50%. 50%. So the last thing I'd like to leave you with is this number. He continues and says, self-driving cars would result in 650,000 lives saved every single year.